Who are just 12 years of age have been convicted of murdering a stranger in a park with a machete.
Two 12-year-old boys in Wolverhampton, hooded up in tracksuits, casually pulled a machete out and hacked to death an innocent man for the crime of brushing past them. What could have led to two young teenagers in Wolverhampton becoming the youngest ever knife killers, and what can be done about knife crime that is plaguing the country?
Kids are dangerous now. And if we don't pay attention to our kids, it will happen every day.
The pair, who cannot be named for legal reasons, are two of the youngest ever convicted murderers in the UK. They are also Britain's youngest ever knife killers, joining a harrowing roll call of child criminals, which includes Robert Thompson and John Venables. However, the most shocking aspect of the case is undoubtedly the boy's age, with it being rare for anybody so young to be tried for such a serious offence. The month-long trial at Nottingham Crown Court heard the two boys acted together to kill Shawn after he shoulder-brushed them near a bench. He was punched, kicked, stamped on and chopped with a 42.5cm long machete that one of the defendants often carried. Although both boys blamed each other, the jury concluded that they were equally responsible for Shawn's death, regardless of who struck the fatal blows. The trial raised questions about how a 12-year-old could get hold of such a knife, with the internet search history of one of the defendants showing he spent a lot of time searching for similar weapons. At the trial, the boys sat in the main well of the court instead of the dock. They also sat alongside specially trained staff to help them understand the proceedings, and none of the legal staff wore wigs or gowns. They were dressed instead in suits, and the trial took place in one of the smaller courts in Nottingham to create a less intimidating atmosphere. Their conviction came as Shawn's devastated father said parents need to pay attention to what their children are doing, as he warned, kids are dangerous now. Mr Seesahai was originally from Caribbean island Anguilla, but was staying in Birmingham while recovering from cataract surgery. Chilling CCTV footage showed Shawn walking to a park minutes before he was murdered. He can be seen leaving Handsworth, an inner city area of Birmingham, with two friends around 5:30 p.m. and getting onto a tram at Winston Green Station. The group then got off at Priestfield Tram in Wolverhampton at 6:13 p.m. and began to make their way towards the park, where they would later bump into the attackers. At 6:34, Mr Seesahai and one friend then left the park to go to a local petrol station, where shop CCTV shows them looking at showers of food. The pair are then spotted heading back to the park for 7:57 p.m, when grainy footage shows them standing in the area until at least 8:15 p.m. The attack itself is not caught on CCTV. Shawn's friend told the trial he was forced to run for his life, but 19-year-old Mr Seesahai stumbled as he tried to flee from the boys on Wolverhampton's Stowlawn playing fields on November 13 last year. The witness said it was a big blade, something similar to a machete. He pulled it out off the sheath from his waist. Shawn told me to run. The court heard that they attacked the victim with such force that in one blow, the machete almost passed through his body. Okay, so truly shocking case here. Two young kids, 12 years old, who've butchered an innocent lad in the park. God knows why they've done it. There was a series of messages. They were chatting to each other after. And one of the messages was like, I just don't care really. You know, quite a depressing statement. But we've got to remember they're just kids. And actual murders and terrible crimes involving children are quite rare. It's not something that happens all the time, although they do make the headlines, and you have videos like this being made about them because of the shocking nature. But knife crime itself, we hear a lot about it in the news, television, press, about how it's soaring, victims of knife crimes going up, etc. I like to try and keep to the facts, take emotion out of it, and look at the real facts and find out how bad the actual problem is with knife crime at the moment. So if you have a look at these stats here from the National Office of Statistics, per 1,000, okay, so 22-23, the last stats that were recorded, 50,000. very high, too high. There needs to be something done about it. But if you look in 2018, 2019, it's 54,000. So it was higher in 2018, 2019. So you're talking 52,000 to 54,000. But if you look back at 2010, it was 36,000. So it has jumped up a lot from around about the 2018 era. Why? Well, the facts are, where there's poverty and inequality, you're going to find issues around crime, violence, and that type of thing. There's been successive governments who've put higher sentences in place, bigger sentences for carrying knives, and it hasn't made any difference. It's got worse, or it's stayed very high since the 2018s, 2019s. So there needs to be an approach. It needs to be taken out of the political cycle where both political parties pay up to the papers, bigger sentences, bigger, more punishment, and it doesn't work. I'm not saying you shouldn't punish people. Everyone has their own opinions on certain things. People need to be held to account for the actions that they do. All I'm saying is we need to do something that works, not keep doing something that doesn't work. So if you look at Glasgow, Scotland, so in 2005, Strathclyde Police, they set up a violent reduction unit, a VRU, and it was an effort to address a problem that had made Glasgow in particular notorious. I think it was the United Nations did a report which illustrated why it was so urgent, that the study sort of concluded that Scotland was the most violent country in the developed world at that time. And it was based on telephone interviews with crime victims conducted between 1991 and 2000. And it found that Scots were almost 3 times as likely to be assaulted as Americans and 30 times more than Japanese. So the VRU, it was directly funded by the Scottish Government. It had an arm's length relationship with Police Scotland. So it was not in conjunction with the police. It was a separate project that was rolled out. And it was later rolled out across Scotland. And it adopted a public health approach to knife crime. So the police would work with those in the health, education and social work sectors to address the problem. Rather than just go for punitive straight away, it would be a combined effort with all the different sectors, education, as I say, health and social work, to understand what was happening and try and create a policy and a scheme that would reduce that. And it worked. So it dramatically dropped the amount of people dying and knife crime, and it became a lot safer. So between April 2006 and 2011, 40 children and teenagers were killed in homicides involving a knife in Scotland. But between 2011 and 2016, that figure fell to just 8. So it went from 40 to 8. A massive decline, most seen in Glasgow, which has got one of the highest murder rates in Western Europe. So it just goes to show that taking a slightly different approach and not just doing the same thing over and over can change that. So there needs to be investment and funding to align the different social departments of education, health, crime, policing, to work together to try and bring this down, rather than just going for bigger sentences and more punitive measures, which haven't worked in the past. It just doesn't work. There's just no point banging your head against the brick wall just to get votes, because people like to see, governments that are strict on law and order. Well, there's no point if it doesn't work. That's just my thoughts. But let me know your thoughts. I'm sure a lot of you think I'm a bleeding heart liberal. I'm far from it. But I just like to look at the facts and what works. And I like to take emotion out rather than just jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, lock all the kids away for life. I'm not saying that these kids who've done this don't deserve that. I'm just looking at the facts and the statistics to see what could work in the future. All right, take care.